Question everything, trust nothing. It's your boy BlockchainCrusader here. We're back for another episode of Around the Charts. We've got the one, the only Bill Noble in the house. What's going on, man? How you doing?
Hey, man, thanks for having me.
Dude, it's always a pleasure to have you on. I mean, the markets have just been at a crawl. There's been crazy news this week. Um, you know, I want to dive right into it. I don't even want to look at the market Overwatch. Everybody knows what's going on. Bitcoin is, broken down a little bit, kind of going sideways, but well, what the real question is, where does this put Bitcoin, right? With now the SEC coming after Coinbase, coming after Binance, do you believe that now this will would this cause a pump in Bitcoin in the short term, maybe at least until we get clarification? If we keep getting all these different altcoins getting hit as securities, is that going to push Bitcoin more, or is that not going to have an effect?
Okay, clarification will come when RFK Jr. comes. That's when we'll get clarification. I think what's also clear is that, Gensler is taking orders from the executive branch. It's as simple as that. So now what happens with Bitcoin? Well, everybody is going to say, well, Bitcoin is okay. All right. But Bitcoin is an institutional asset now. I think the first trade was sell and get your money off exchanges, or sell Bitcoin and get into ETH and get onto a DEX. That was trade one. Trade two, retail bought the dip. Trade three, at the end of the quarter, because remember, June's quarter end, you may see institutions just saying, I made a bunch of money in Bitcoin. I'm going to liquidate. I'm going to go on vacation. And I really don't want to deal with, any shocks that may occur. What is eventually going to happen to Bitcoin? I think some of these altcoins are in trouble. I think it's going to be in the bigger ones. Me and Evan have been talking about total 3. We can go into it. So I think Bitcoin is going to wind up being a beneficiary of some trouble in bigger altcoins. Ironically, according to research with one of my analysts, it could be Cardano.
Why? Can you explain or elaborate a little bit on why you think it could be Cardano?
Okay, I think it has to do with retail ownership. I mean, it could be this simple. Cardano is a very visually interesting cryptocurrency, right? It's got a high market cap, but when you look at it, it's like, oh, it's only 38 cents. It's got that sticker appeal, right? Now, if Cardano has to be like delisted off of like Coinbase or major exchanges, you're going to have two things. One, obviously selling. Two, the amount of money flowing into that coin to support it. The sponsorship won't be there, right? The thing about altcoins that we learned in meme coins is that, when money floods in, everything goes up. But if money doesn't continue to flow in, it collapses. Now, that can also happen to big cap cryptos. If they lose sponsorship, if Cardano is a big retail play and retail just goes, I'm out, I'll see you next cycle. I mean, are they going to pull it off and pull it in a cold wallet, Coinbase customers, or are they just going to sell?
Yeah, that's perfectly said. That's a good question. I mean, I'm a big proponent of Cardano. I hope Cardano performs well. But I know a lot of people are shaking up with everything that's happening now. Things getting delisted, things getting hit with the brand of being a security. I think this administration, everything's going on right now, is definitely hurting. I made a video about it earlier this week. They're using the China playbook, right? They are literally labeling cryptos. Gary Gensler came out saying that we don't need cryptocurrencies. All we need is a digital dollar, right? Because we have the digital dollar. They're trying to make this happen for the simple fact that they want to push the CBDCs just like China did. After China got their CBDC in, now they're starting to come out and be pro crypto. Very same thing. The United States is now very kind of anti-crypto. Everything's being a security. Everything's being, on not so settled footing, I guess, and that makes people nervous. And in the meantime, they're going to start pushing for the CBDC, for this digital dollar, and then at some point they'll probably come back and be pro crypto again. But I do hope that with the election cycle coming up, we, like you said, RFK, DeSantis, maybe even Trump comes out pro Bitcoin and pro cryptocurrencies to really push innovation forward and not away from this country. but it's gonna be an interesting ride, nonetheless.
I
As
mean, can you imagine in the United States of America, we need less choice, less variety, less competition. I mean, since when?
well,
Since
since they started deeming that they can make these choices for you, right? They know what they're doing. They're trying to protect you, right? It's all for your safety. Once that narrative really starts to take control, they're gonna put that narrative into everything.
right,
That's
and
the biggest problem.
we're looking at it. We're looking at a sharp drop in the dollar. I think the timing on this is, I could go into all the macro stuff. I mean, if you look at the screen today, Treasury bonds went down yesterday and interest rates went up. Today, the dollar is lower and so are bank stocks. The dollar is going to absolutely fall out of bed. That's not necessarily this administration's fault, but remember, they got to stay in office for another 2 years and participate in an election cycle. So,
Yep.
Gary Gensler reports to somebody, and Gary Gensler is reporting to somebody who was saying, get after crypto because, six-figure Bitcoin is the end of our world image. Is that fair? No. But
100%. It's that, right? I also mentioned, I told people earlier this week, I was like, whoever thought that crypto wasn't going to have to fight to continue existing, right? Before they could deny, laugh, joke about Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies, but it's gained such level of momentum now that now they have to attack it. Now they have to come after it. Now the fight really begins, right? Because now they know it can't go away and there's a lot of momentum behind it. And they feel the danger of what is happening with cryptocurrencies versus the dollar. So the fight's only getting started. It's going to be a long one. But if something can dethrone the dollar or throw out the traditional system, Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies is definitely the strongest champion I've ever seen, ever heard of before. So I just want to let people know, smash those likes, hit the subscribe button, go check out Bill's channel. His link is down below. uh if you guys are going to miss me, this is going to be my last show for quite a long time. So if you guys are going to miss me, make sure you smash those likes, guys. um but yeah, Bill, do you have anything in the chart right now that you can tell that is showing kind of maybe short term, maybe even some longer term predictions for Bitcoin? Because this summer lullaby feels like last summer all over again, right? This sideways, not much, just ranging between a few $1,000s back and forth. What are you seeing?
okay, so all right, so let's start with Binance Coin, right? So is this the next FTT? I
I don't
really
think
think
so.
I don't either. I don't either. Like I said, I worked with my partner analyst this morning, and even though the complaint sounds scary, it doesn't feel like BNB is a disaster. Now, if BNB is below 260, it's vulnerable to 125. Hopefully, that does not happen. Uh, I honestly don't think it's going to, but people need to be aware of the risks, particularly as it comes to altcoins. Now, if we switch over here to Bitcoin, okay, so if you're looking at Bitcoin on a daily chart, you could be looking at a 9 bottom next week. So in DeMark work, it counts a sets of conditions. It's like the first quant TA system. So when you see a 13, that could be a top or a bottom. When you see a 9, that can be a mini top or a big top. So I would guess tomorrow, if it's a sideways to down day, you could get a pop in Bitcoin. All right. ETH is something similar, right? ETH doesn't have the 9 bottom, but ETH, this green dotted line, I mean, ETH is stuck at 1850, right? $800 million came off Binance and into ETH. Sometimes with ETH, I wonder how ETH is ever going to move, right? Because everybody's coming, people are either going into Bitcoin or they're getting off DEXs and going into the Ethereum based. I'm sorry, they're getting off centralized exchanges and going into DEXs. Now, again, this count shows ETH could have 5 straight down days. So I don't want to overtalk the ETH. I'm sorry, overtalk the issue, right? But I think you really, really got to be careful in altcoins, particularly after, like what's happened on the charts and what Gensler is out there saying today. Like if you look, say you look at Cardano, right? If you just want me to pull up another chart. So, you know, Cardano was getting ready to do something good before this happened. Okay, now you've got the potential for 5 more down days, right? And that's pretty scary because, you know, Cardano never really rallied to begin with. I mean, it did, but it's unwound most of what it did this year. Now, you know, Solana may do a lot better because of the Solana phone, and Solana was also, as you can see, totally destroyed by FTX, but that doesn't mean you can't have 5 more down days. Now, for an altcoin to make it, I think an altcoin's going to have a white knight. I don't know if that's a venture capitalist, if it's a politician, if it's a tech company. In other words, if Web 2 comes in, Soros is on the tape saying crypto is ripe to be taken over, right? I mean, Apple is releasing $3,000 VR goggles. They want to control Web 3. They may come in and start making overtures. I'm not saying it's Solana, but I'm saying if you get an overture, you're in good shape. You don't get an overture, you're in trouble, right? So near, again, same thing, daily chart, potentially 5 more down days if you like circle in. All right. The good news about near is that, you know, you're at a 9 bottom on a 4-hour chart. Let me tell you something. You better get a rally. So that's the other thing in altcoins. Beware the failed rally. I know I always say that when it comes to down markets, but if you see something rush up and then fail, right, that could mean sellers are out there and sponsorship is gone.
Dude, that's perfect, dude. I mean, big surprise here. We got Evan Aldo on the show. What's going on, man?
What is up? Yeah, sorry about that. Got a little sidetracked, forgot about it. But yeah, I'm
No,
here.
no worries, dude. We're just talking about Bitcoin, talking about everything that's been happening with the markets. SEC, you know, Gensler and the SEC coming after Binance, Coinbase, and, you know, declaring all these altcoins securities now. So I guess I'll just propose the same question to you. What are you seeing for Bitcoin, you know, in the short term, long term, as you're seeing now Gary Gensler pointing the finger at saying, hey, all these altcoins are securities. And we got some articles we're going to be hitting up here pretty
Yeah.
soon as well. You know, do you see something in the charts for Bitcoin? Are people going to start moving over to Bitcoin more now? And
Yep.
then I have a follow-up question too, for both of you guys about, could that be a setup? But let's get your thoughts first on what you're seeing for Bitcoin right now.
Yeah, so I'll show you the charts. I mean, what I like to really do is look at the charts through the eyes of, through the eyes of the fundamentals. And there was, it wasn't too surprising that Gensler, starting to come back on, on crypto, declaring things as securities. This isn't too surprising. A lot of people did kind of predict that there would be regulatory FUD, things of that nature. And I just want to bring you back first on the technicals, just the main pattern we followed throughout, Bitcoin's history. These are the previous bear markets. This was the bear market in 2015. It was a double bottom, and it looks pretty similar if you zoom out to the bear market in 2018 with, obviously the pandemic right there. That was also a double bottom. Right, like how we compared. Look at this run up in 2019, similar to the run up we had in 2023 so far. What logically would probably happen if we kind of repeat over here and repeat over here? Obviously, it's not going to look exactly like this time or like this time. It'll probably have some differences, but most likely you would see somewhat of a double bottom or a higher high in the coming months. And what else happened during this period over here, especially during this rundown? It also happened here too, is what happened with Bitcoin dominance, as you can see right here. Let's go back to 2019. This was the area after Bitcoin started to come down in 2019. Look at what happened with Bitcoin dominance, about a 24% run up, almost a 25% run up. I don't know if it's going to be that extreme this time, but my goal here is look at this channel we've been in with Bitcoin dominance for a while. My thing here is that we could come up to at least around the mid 50s while Bitcoin continues to outperform a lot of the altcoins here up to around 56. And I think that what we're going to do too, if you look at the weekly here on the Bitcoin dominance chart, look at where money flow was back in June of 2019. Look at where money flow is right now. History seems like it's going to repeat and we're going to run up. Most likely, I think. So let's go back to Bitcoin on the short term a little bit. So what we're looking at right here, this was that long, by the way, I took this morning, which was a pretty nice jump off of the 200 weekly moving average, which is right around 26.3 right here, which is a big point. this is a huge point to hold. If we can hold this point, there's a lot of hope for Bitcoin, potentially going up higher, potentially going back to the volume area high right here. What's not a good sign is if you look at this volume area low right here, so the volume area high is right here. If you're not too familiar with volume profiles, you want to, like, when you break out of it, it's bad. Like when you break down out of it, or when you break up out of it, it's bullish. When you break down out of it, it's bad. We broke down out of it, and now we're rejecting pretty harshly from it. So that's not a good sign for the bulls at all. If you look here on the 6 hour, we got a bunch of blood diamonds on market cipher A. Even if you're not too familiar with market cipher, you can kind of estimate what blood diamonds normally mean. And look at what happened with these guys over here. I mean, this was a 10% drop down. And if we do drop down about 10% and you lose, kind of that area here, you do have one technical target is down here out of the volume profile we broke out of, but there's another technical target that's going to be out of this larger head and shoulders right here. That's going to be even lower, around 23K. So I'm in the ballpark. Most likely into the next coming months, into probably September, October, Bitcoin will come down with all the altcoins and outperform the majority of altcoins. The last thing I'm going to show you real quick here is where I'm looking to get into example, maybe Cardano. I'm looking at the history of this is Cardano versus Bitcoin. Look at what we did in 2019. See, we kept coming down even after the market bottomed out. Say the market's bottomed out now, that still doesn't mean it's the best time to get into Cardano. It may be the best time to get into Bitcoin. I'm looking for 1 or 2 more yellow X's on this weekly, or price to kind of come down to these points and potentially make a higher high against Bitcoin. I'm looking for mainly this area. So I'm looking for a potentially, I know it's a lot, but a 40% decline against Bitcoin into sometime in the end of the year for a marvelous time to get into altcoins, I think.
Dude, that's great analysis right there. So I'm gonna actually hit these articles that Bill shared with us first, and then I'll get back to my follow-up question about Bitcoin. So the first one, let me share my screen here. But the first one is, wait 2 seconds here. Whoa. All right, first one is, SEC Chair Gensler says corrupt frenzy is rife with hucksters and fraudsters, scam artists, right? Calling everybody here scam artists that's in the cryptocurrency game. Yet this is the same guy that met with FTX multiple times, right? Has been meeting up with not Binance, with Coinbase for multiple years. This is the same guy that applied to work at Binance, right? About 2-3 years ago. Yet now is calling everybody a scam artist here in crypto. What are your guys' thoughts on this article?
Well, Gensler, like if you have a day job, this, you have a boss, right? And Gensler's taking his orders from the top. Now, that said, Gensler, like Pepe was great for whoever owned Pepe, but Pepe opened the door for Gensler and everything that followed Pepe, which was retail getting rugged, right? So they might have been looking to do it. I know the whole meme coin thing was fun, but I was on the show going, oh man, Gensler's watching this. And that's when they lifted the cover off the launch button, right? Crypto is the only market that I've ever seen that has the unique ability to F itself like regularly.
I'm surprised that they waited, right? Look how surprising this is that FTX happened. All these people are tied up with FTX, right? The Biden administration, the Democrats, Ukraine, Gensler, silence, right? Very small little things about, crypto bad and regulation needed, back and forth, just a little bit, nothing crazy. And now they're dropping the hammer hard, right? 6-7 months later, when everybody kind of forgets about FTX, and now they're blaming it on the meme coins, on the scams.
I think when you have, last year they may have known it was going to blow up, and maybe their attitude was just let it. Maybe crypto will just end itself and we won't have to take them out. I don't know. I think the thing that's going to go down this year is the dollar, and they're getting really sensitive about that. There's a lot of negative news media coverage, and there's a lot of macro fundamental reasons for the dollar to go a lot lower. So, their level of sensitivity on the optics on that, especially if you look at DXY down today hard, that's the sensitivity point.
Evan, thoughts?
Yeah, so I mean, I'm not that salty about, the SEC going after these companies, because I want cheaper altcoins and I just view it as kind of an opportunity. I don't think there's too much of an issue with them being kind of classified as securities. I think that was kind of inevitable. I mean, obviously us in crypto, we all want to, say, contrary, we all want to say that the only asset class you can make money in and do well in is something that's not a security, but that's not necessarily true. I think we saw this was inevitable. I think it's going, if you could look at this one way and say like, oh, this sucks. We're going to go down, SEC, they're full of crap, all this, they're greedy, they're all controlled, it's all a conspiracy. But on the other hand, look, I mean, the charts have told us, history has told us, if you look at what happened in 2019, altcoins went down a ton against Bitcoin. That's typically what happens. I think even if we didn't have the SEC going after, Binance and Coinbase, you still would have like seeing what you've seen over the last since really September of last year, which is Bitcoin outperforming the majority of altcoins, which it does kind of in bear markets and accumulation phases. And then the time to get into alts is obviously, towards the end of the accumulation phase, most likely later this year. You probably really have, to be honest, towards the middle of 2024 before you really miss out on alts. I mean, I got big into alts around mid to late 2020, and I did incredibly, incredibly well. So I wasn't even too late to the game right then. So if history repeats, you're going to be all right. The main concern I have a little bit with the SEC and government regulation that I kind of don't want to happen, that's going to be kind of unfair, is if they make it like how you have to be with stocks, if you want to get in before an IPO, like for a stock that's going to IPO, you have to be an accredited investor. They may do that for kind of ICOs, which kind of is going to be unfair to that's going to kind of, make it harder for retail to have the venture capitalism opportunities that a lot of the really wealthy people have, and the whales have. It goes both ways. I mean, the majority of people don't know what they're doing and they end up losing money anyway. But that's the main thing that's going to happen here. But look, you just got to play your cards right. You got to see what's happening and you got to take advantage of it. And you got to see the technicals through the eyes of the fundamentals, or vice versa. So, yeah.
Dude, agreed, right? I think that's been one of the biggest concerns for people is the right type of regulation, right? They start throwing in the wrong type of regulation, like, not allowing people to get into ICOs unless they're accredited investors.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, this is people's money, and this is a chance for them, for the average person to, maybe make life-changing money. Yes, is there tons of risk involved? Yes, but at the end of the day, it's their money. They should be allowed to, make those risks with that money on their own. And so the follow-up question, right, where this has been leading me to is they're labeling all these altcoin securities. They're, maybe they'll make them get delisted from these exchanges, reduce what's available in the United States for retail in the United States on these exchanges. And then, Bitcoin maxis are like, yeah, that's right. Bitcoin only, baby. Let's go. That's all you need. And I understand, but at the same time, if we start to reduce competition, right, getting rid of all these altcoins, even the top tier altcoins, right, top 20, top 10, and leave Bitcoin only, does that make Bitcoin an easier target for the United States to then come back and say, okay, now that we've gotten rid of all these altcoins, we've put in all this other regulation in place, we've made all these things possible, now we've got everything we need to come after Bitcoin in some way, somehow. What are your guys' thoughts? Bill, why don't you go first?
Okay, well, I think what they're going to do with the general public is they're going to say, we're going to leave Bitcoin alone for now. I think that's the way they prevent massive political wrath and look, I don't know, more obvious than they already do. Now, you're a technology guy. I did listen to you talk about Bitcoin ordinals and the NFTs and how that all works from a code point of view. I mean, if you have an NFT burned into a Satoshi, is that a security? So if Bitcoin is not a security, if you got securities running on their network, I mean, look, folks, I'm not trying to be a downer, but what I think the Bitcoin people need to be careful of is that they were starting to bring that speculative shockwave, and the speculation is still out there on the Bitcoin network. So, I think we should cheer for clarity. I think the Gensler stuff looks draconian. It may not be. You may wind up, you can't make you steel unless you put the iron in the fire, right? And that may be what's happening with crypto, but I think the worst thing you can do in any crisis is say, oh, I'm safe in this. Because in 2008, you weren't safe in anything that included gold. So no gloating Bitcoin maxis.
Agreed. Evan, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it depends, like, how paranoid you want to be. I mean, it is possible, it always seems like it is possible we could kind of go down towards that path of China eventually, especially if economic things get really tight and they want to, seize everything they can, and government wants to get, as much power as they can. It's possible. It depends how paranoid you want to be. Like, if you really want to prevent that from happening, you got to kind of go to a place where they don't have the resources to go after you, somewhere like El Salvador, or there's somebody that's more pro Bitcoin like that. Do I think that's going to happen? Probably not. Kind of the worst case scenario, I think, could be something like what FDR did with gold around World War II, where they confiscated. Like, if they confiscated it from us and get that draconian, they're going to give you something in return for it. But at the same time, that's where it gets kind of scary. But I really don't think, and you look at it politically, like, probably what's going to happen. Like, they're basically handing Trump the nomination right now. He's got a very, very, very good shot of defeating Biden and becoming president again. He's pro his Trump NFT. He's probably going to come out pro crypto. I mean, I don't think if you're holding Bitcoin on a hardware wallet, I don't think you have that much to worry about. And even if you do, I think you're going to be able to see it coming, and you're probably going to have enough time to prepare for it. But obviously, if we go into this is like crazy things happening, like a Great Depression, if you're seeing like a repeat of the 1930s, and economically things get so bad where government just has the ability to step in, so fiercely, then you may have something to worry about. But I mean, if you're somebody who's more of a positive outlook in that kind of sense, I mean, you're probably going to be all right. Ultimately, with all the regulation, we knew this would happen. There was rumors about this for a while. We knew regulation would come in. I mean, FTX was a nail in the coffin. Maybe that sped it up a little bit, but we knew this would happen. And I think it's going to come in. You just got to see where it is and adapt and play your cards the right way based on it.
Yeah, dude, I want to actually hit one of these comments that's actually really good about what we're talking about here. It says, take away the on and off ramps and will not allow banks to let non-accredited investors be able to have any chance, and massive FUD for unknowing crypto person. So I don't know what he meant by that last part, but the first part is true, right? If they start coming after these on ramps, right? Coinbase, Binance, and they start making it very difficult, right? We already have banks that make it very hard for you to connect your bank account to Coinbase, and they kind of stop your transactions from going through when they see you sending $1,000 to Coinbase, or you're sending $1,000 from Coinbase back to your bank. They start closing your bank account down and all this stuff. So if they continue to go off after these on ramps and off ramps, it kind of does lead the way for accredited investors to swoop in and then take all the advantages of cryptocurrencies, while most people get left out. Which actually also leads us into this other perfect article that Bill shared with us here. So let me share my screen here real quick and just show you guys, and then we'll get your thoughts. So Soros, good old friend Soros, fund management CEO, says crypto is ripe for TradeFi takeover. And then it says crypto is here to stay, but the recent turmoil to amount whatever provides an opportunity for traditional finance to take the lead, says Don Fitzpatrick, CEO of Soros Fund Management. Platforms like Binance and Coinbase would have benefited from having an adult in the room. Oh, how nice. They threw that little slick comment in there. She said amid the SEC lawsuits against both platforms, maybe they would have had clarity after Coinbase asked 100 times in the last 10 years, but they didn't get any clarity. Maybe they wouldn't need an adult, like they say. So what do you guys think when Soros, right, well, maybe not him individually, but his fund comes out saying that this is the perfect opportunity for TradeFi to take over cryptocurrencies? Bill, why don't we start with you?
Okay, well, Legacy has liquidity problems, right? Legacy can't get rid of commercial real estate, venture capital, corporate bonds, you name it. They need to have that stuff tokenized. They do. And they've said that. So does BlackRock want to buy Coinbase? Oh, you bet they do. Or does, do these big banks? I mean, how do you get your hands on large amounts of crypto or large amounts of crypto flows? You got to buy a Galaxy Digital. You got to buy MicroStrategy. You got to buy the organizations so you can take control and drive, and get basically the value from crypto. In other words, way back when, don't laugh, but there was a saying in technology, little guy innovates, big guy wins. The first internet browser, the firm I was working for used it, Netscape, right? It was the first internet browser, which was followed by Microsoft Outlook, or Edge, it's now called, followed by Safari, followed by Chrome. Now ChatGPT. You know what I'm saying? So the little guy in Netscape innovated, but the big guys wind up winning. And, you know, like, we're drooling over lower priced altcoins, and so are they. They're drooling over Web3. I mean, Apple wants to charge you $4,000 for a VR headset. You know, they want Web3 too. They want it cheaper, $3,600 for this thing that looks like the Facebook goggles.
Yeah.
Right. So, you know, these guys, they all want to own Web3. And I'm sorry, it's not a coincidence that 3 layer ones wound up on the hit list. So, you know, Wall Street wants crypto. Silicon Valley either wants to slow it down or come in and buy it cheap. They all want it. It's the box of chocolates under the bed. Oh, that's not good for you. Oh, I don't eat that. Oh, yeah. Okay. Whatever.
That's a great point. Evan, what do you think about Soros?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like, you could see it ultimately. I think the biggest examples of it too are probably healthcare and energy. They just get so regulated by the billionaires, and it just, one, it stifles innovation, and two, it just brings more money to the billionaires and that type of thing. And I mean, there's not too much we could really, we could talk about it, but there's not too much we can really do about that. But all we can really do is just kind of plan accordingly and kind of, do the right thing here. So I look at my charts.
Do you think that traditional markets taking over crypto would be a good thing?
No, but no, I probably overall for the average person, no, but I think there's a way where you could play your cards right, no matter kind of what happens here. I hope that doesn't happen, but it's kind of looking like it will happen with all the lawsuits, classifying things as securities. But that doesn't mean you can't still make money in it if you get in kind of at the right time. I just look at my charts. I look at history, kind of what happened in 2019. And everything points out to me, wait a little bit longer on the altcoins. Wait till Bitcoin dominance gets a bit higher. Just focus on Bitcoin accumulation now. And then focus more on Ethereum and altcoins in a couple months, around September, October. Everything kind of points to that area too. And September is definitely a bad month for traditional markets. I believe it's a bad month for crypto as well. After September, I think is going to be a golden time to get in before the next happening. And at the same time, it's kind of much. The thing here is it's kind of like important to realize it's how much risk do you want to take? If you're a value investor, if you're a value investor, you'd probably just want to stick with Bitcoin because that's, the thing that is probably a 95 or 98, maybe even up to 99% chance of still being here in 50 years. If you're somebody who's more of a venture capitalist, you want to stick more with the altcoins and hedge your bets that way. It's kind of depends on how much risk you want to take. But I still think that ultimately to make the most money, to potentially still get into life-changing wealth, a diversified portfolio, starting when Bitcoin dominance gets to the mid 50s, ETH and a bunch of altcoins diversified is going to be the best shot of doing it in the next bull run. I can't promise that you're going to get a 10x or whatever, but if you want to make life-changing wealth, not financial advice, but I think the best lane there to get a potential 10x or more is going to be ETH and a bunch of altcoins.
For sure, right? ETH and altcoins are definitely the way that the average person trying to build up a portfolio, the average person that is getting started now has a good opportunity to, like you said, maybe 10x or maybe more their money. Nobody's going to be 10xing their Bitcoin right now. Nobody has the most average investors in retail are not buying up a whole coin, right? They're not whole coiners. They're just owning a few $100, maybe a few $1,000 here or there. But not everyone has $26,000, $27,000 to drop on one Bitcoin. And then even if they did, right, maybe they'll 2x, 3x that money. But then how likely that those people will actually be selling the top, right? Most people miss the top. It's so hard to actually time the market like that. So yeah, altcoins definitely are the future for retail investors to, make some big money. Bitcoin is more like that digital gold, right? That whole just, hey, I'm just going to be saving long term here with this, but nobody's going to be retiring off Bitcoin if you're getting in right now. If you got in 2017, I mean, if you got in at 2015, maybe you've retired off Bitcoin, but not at these prices. The average person will most likely not retire off Bitcoin. I want to hit one of these comments here by Green Day. Says, question, I know RFK Jr. and DeSantis are pro crypto. I thought Trump was against crypto. Has anyone heard any different? So Trump Jr. had an interview with BitBoy on Rumble. They spoke about the pros of Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. His son seemed very for it all, and he kind of hinted at that, that his dad at some point is going to have some type of pivot coming forward. The point that somebody brought on was that he has an NFT collection, right? He has 2 drops of NFTs. He's pro NFTs, meaning he's pro crypto in some form, some format, some way. And the fact that the US dollar is in danger, the fact that the US dollar is, on its way down, if he is for the people like he portrays himself to be, right? You want people not to go financially broke, continuously holding a thing that is dying anyways. So he can't, if he actually means and well for the people, continuously push the dollar, knowing that the dollar is dying, instead of something like Bitcoin, or let's just go for Bitcoin in this example because they're not going to hit altcoins. But a politician will come out pro Bitcoin saying, hey, here is a potential way to gain more freedom, more sovereignty, more rights, anti censorship resistance. So yes, I also believe he's going to come out pro Bitcoin at some point. It's only a matter of time. If he doesn't, I'll be very surprised. But guys, this leads us to one of my last questions here is, Bitcoin has come down to what is it? What's that right now? 26.5. Do you guys believe before this year is over, will we hit below 20K, or at least to the lower end of 20K again? Or are we just never going to hit those low levels anytime this year? Like, you just don't see anything that could possibly take us that low. What do you guys think?
Okay.
Go ahead, Bill.
No, go.
Okay. I ultimately think, my main view is that, and I'll show you kind of my chart here. My kind of main view is normally Bitcoin always bottoms out at a major, weekly moving average. I'll show you the 300 weekly moving average, which is a really important point to keep your eye on. This lies right now on right around 20K, just below it. If you look what happened here, double bottom, you look what happened in this one, double bottom. I think kind of 20K is a very, very, very highly likelihood of getting down to 20K. I'm going to sound really bearish saying this, but I'm almost kind of, based on what I'm looking at, 20K looks kind of like the best case scenario. Worst case scenario, potentially being a slightly lower low than the 15K. I think it's going to be some range between 20K and between kind of 13K. Into the end of the year, or even into early next year. You also have this point too, which is going to be, let me just put it up real quick so you can see, this is your 400 weekly moving average. The reason these are important is because Bitcoin always either bottomed at the 200 or 300 historically in the bear markets. This one's the 400, and we could kind of estimate, like where that would end up. This would be a nice case for a double bottom right around like 16 if we hit it in September, October. September is normally a red month, I believe, for Bitcoin. It's a red month, at least for stock market. So that's what I'm looking at right now. I think, unfortunately, most likely we're going to at least retest 20K.
Interesting. Those are opportunities, right? That's where the money is made, in those big opportunities. What about you, Bill? What do you think?
Okay. So let me let me bring up a weekly chart here. Okay. So when it comes to Elliott wave, there's always 2 ways to look at it, right? You could say that this 3 and this C here. So you could say FTX was a big 3 wave down. Elliott wave has 5 parts, right? The big parts of the trend are 3 and 5. But you could say FTX was a 3, and this is a nice little bounce. That's 4. And then we're going to have a new low. That's 5. So for people looking at 15K, the DeMark automated Elliott wave tool can draw that. Okay. Now, my opinion is that everything that's happening here is being driven by the dollar, right? That the macro aspect of Bitcoin is going to create demand because people are going to see what happens in legacy, and Gary Gensler will be a forgotten memory, just like SBF was a forgotten memory when Bitcoin was up here. So the alternate Elliott wave count was that, this is the first leg of a new leg up, and this is the 2-wave correction. That 2 just showed up now. So maybe Bitcoin goes down to 22. Hey, and who knows? There's this big up week here in Bitcoin. Conceivably, you could just unwind all that. Why not? You could get 20, 21. Everyone's like, oh, I want 20K Bitcoin. This Bitcoin Miami 2021. I'd sell my house to get Bitcoin back at 20K. I'm like, well, it was there for 6 months, bro. Did you buy any? No.
That's
so
right. They never do.
Right. So, if it prints 21 or 22, right, that was where it was before this takeoff. What would you have done? Well, you probably washed out some people who FOMO'd in, and then it would be right back where it spent, I don't know, a couple of months. So maybe at 22 or at 21, I mean, let's put it this way. If it's at 20, if it's at 21, people will say it's going to 18. If it's at 18, they'll say it's going to 15. And if it's at 15, they'll be saying it's going to 7,500. You've seen this before, right? Everyone's like, oh, I want to buy the dip, not realizing that it looks like a great ball of fire with a giant dragon with 3 heads at the bottom. And you're like, oh, okay. No, right? When it goes down there, whether it's 21 or otherwise, it will be scary. And the tougher it is to do the trade, the more rewarding it'll be. Because that's what my colleague is saying here, right? I want it to be ugly. I want everyone scared out, right? Because the institutions want in, I want in. But in order to have good entry points, you got to have a good chart point. You have to overshoot the good chart point. Okay. You have to have sentiment turn sour, revulsion, and that's the bottom.
Dude, that's such a good point, because when Bitcoin was at 15, nobody was thinking about 30. Everyone was thinking about 10, 9, maybe 7, right? So it's that scary trade that, like, oh my God, I'm not buying here right now. We're going to go so much lower. There's just so much panic. There's just so many bad things happening. Nobody was thinking about buying because it was going to pump to 30. And that opportunity is going to present itself once again. And most people, yet again, no matter how many times they watch this episode or they watch any of our episodes or any other channel out there, will do it. They will once again sit on the sidelines and miss the opportunity yet again. It's just crazy. Just rinse and repeat. It's like
just DCA.
This always has to happen. Always. So last question here. We're going to close out the show. Quick one from Jeff. He says, do you guys believe there's one last time to 10x Ethereum? Yes or no? What do you guys think?
So if he means 10x in the next bull run, I think ETH has to come down to probably at least 1,100 again to have that opportunity. And that's kind of on the higher echelon, maybe 1,100 on the higher echelon of where I could see ETH potentially going. There's a lot of like historical trend lines that you could draw out that gives like major resistance between 8 to 10K. If you were to hit those points in 2025, that's where I would be getting out of ETH, like big, taking major profits on ETH around 8 to 10K. If you do make a lower low on ETH, it's kind of looking not as likely now, but if you do go to like crazy lows, like 700, 600, I think you're pretty easily going to get a 10x in the next bull run, unless we don't make new all-time highs. But even then, you could kind of get close to it. So, yeah.
Nice. What about you, Bill? What do you think?
Okay. Well, I do think you can get a 10x in Ethereum. The question is, what are you going to be eating? And is there going to be a roof over your head if that happens? Right. I mean, everybody thinks it's 2021 when the Fed printed 6 trillion in 1 month. I mean, if Ethereum's at 10K, you probably have gold at 5K, right?
It could go.
Right. It could. So can Ethereum go to 10,000? Yes, particularly if they have to have a whole separate decentralized finance system out of necessity. So can it happen? Yes, this is a prepper channel. Of course it can happen, right? But if you're not on a prepper channel, can you talk about the fact that, you know, ETH at 10K, you know, implies that, you know, you got to hunt deer for a living. You know, that's just, I always caution people, you know, to be careful what they wish for. Do I think it's possible? Yes. I do think there will be better opportunities. ETH will be the path to better opportunities, just like it has been in the past.
Dude, great point. You always got to be very, very careful what you wish for, right? People were talking about big. Who was it? Somebody came out and said that Bitcoin is going to hit $1 million in 90 days. And we're like, you don't want that, right? You do not want Bitcoin to hit $1 million in 90 days. That means, you know, disaster in all other markets, disaster in worldwide. Like, that is not the way you want your Bitcoin to hit $1 million, because at that point, it's not going to be worth $1 million. Isn't going to be worth what you think is going to be worth. So, yeah, it's always something to definitely think about. Guys, it's been a pleasure having you guys on. Make sure to go smash those likes if you haven't already. Go follow both these creators. Their links are down below. Go check out their content. It's been great streaming with you guys. Like I said before at the beginning of the show, this is my last show for quite a while. So hope you guys, you know, enjoy it. Stay tuned for Keeper. He's going to be up and running the show here. Maybe the show's going to probably be offline for about 2 weeks, and then about 2 weeks or so, he'll be bringing the show back on. But until then, guys, like always, question everything, trust nothing, and until next time, hodl like it's hot. See you guys.
See ya.